Hi, this is Lori Rehfeldt with God Aliens and a Cup of Coffee. My co-partner, Donna Rehfeldt Schreiber, and also Larry Warren are not here right now because I thought I'd share something that they weren't aware of, and I think it was really interesting. Hang on one sec. I want to see if I can go ahead and bring up this video. Let's see. Record. Okay, I think I have it all figured out. Let's see. Oh, there we are. Okay, there we are. Let's see here. Ooh. All righty. All right, here we go. And I hope this works really well for you. I guess almost 2 years ago, I did my first conference, and I was talking about something that was a little more unique, so people could get an idea of who I am, where I'm from, how my life has been in regard to synchronicity and all that good stuff. And I'll try and get into a little bit more detail, and I hope you do appreciate this. So I started this PowerPoint, Major Lori Rehfeldt, me, present the high strangeness of RAF Bentwaters and RAF Woodbridge, and also to include the February 1980 Eastgate incident, which was the precursor to the Rendlesham Forest incident that occurred in December 1980. All right, now you're thinking, why am I showing you my 4th grade class? Well, there's a good reason. I attended St. Patrick's School, and notice I got SPS in the highlighted in yellow. I was there for 7 years. And interestingly, I wore the SPS badge over my heart during those 7 years. So you can see me actually in the zoomed in one here. Let me see if I can do it. Okay, I won't even try and do it. That's me in the middle with the bangs. And the gentleman to my right is Peter Pullion, who actually posted this photo of my 4th grade class. Yeah, our class was ridiculously large. Yeah, to think that the school got away with having such a large class, but that's life. So there's a connection with me and the SPS, and which I think is, I won't disregard it, but it's there. So when I went into the Air Force, and this is my basic training class, I was in basic training from January 23rd, 1978. And this photo was taken on 10 February 1978. And it was, my flight was flight WO28. WO was for women, 28. The squadron was, we were 37, 11, basic military training school, BMTS. And I was at the very, very top, next to Debbie Visnick, who was in the middle. I was to her right, and you could see me in the middle there. And interestingly, you can see I'm wearing the blue and white tabs. So we were no longer pickles at that point, where we didn't have any name tags or USAF on it. And my friend Marge is in the bottom right-hand corner. I just wanted to share that because she was so cool. She made me laugh during this time. And interestingly, from there, I was the only one out of both of my flights that were leaving the day. And I woke up in the morning and everyone was gone. And I had to figure out how to get to the bus. I packed my stuff up, dragged it down, found the bus, I guess, and found my way over to the law enforcement school, where I started in processing for technical school, which would last 5 weeks. So I was in basic training for 6 weeks, and then the following 5 weeks, I was in technical school. Because I was a woman, there were 2 things I was not able to do. One was, at that time, women in basic training were not issued combat boots, just to let you know, just to give you an insight of the time frame we were. The other thing is that women had a makeup class. Not that we had to make up anything, but we had to learn how to apply makeup to show the feminine side of ourselves within our uniform. And while the men were out, or the young boys, I should say, were out learning how to shoot the M16. Very, 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 very different world. The other interesting fact about basic training also was that the flight on the 2nd floor, we were on the 3rd floor, and the flight on the 2nd floor were Iranian Air Force personnel. So we were actually training them. And so we would see them actually in the chow hall and that kind of thing. I thought it was kind of interesting seeing something so culturally unique to me. And the last thing is that Russian flu hit hit Lackland Air Force Base pretty hard, that we were quarantined. So the majority of our basic training time, we did a lot of marching, but we did some calisthenics, but we didn't really, definitely wasn't like Army basic training. Here I am. This is January 22nd, 1978. Twas the night before basic training. My Samsonite that could be kicked around by a gorilla in one of their advertisements was right by my leg there, or my foot. But I was packed and I was ready to go, curious of where my adventure would lead. I knew I was heading to Lackland, but where I was going to go after that, it was still all up in the air. In late April 1978, and right before I went over to RAF Bentwaters, I had gotten my assignment. I completed basic training in technical school, and I was pumped up. I was so into this whole military thing. I was kind of ridiculous. I mean, I was really gung-ho, ready to show the world what I could do. I was fresh out of basic training, completely indoctrinated. Some would say brainwashed, but let's just say indoctrinated. And Mom was ready to take me to McGuire Air Force Base so I could head off to a Royal Air Force Base in the United Kingdom, also known as RAF Bentwaters. Now, as you can see, my uniform, and this is 1978, but this was really a replica from Jackie Kennedy. This was an outfit she would have worn back in 1962, 63. And I even wore the pillbox hat. Now, when I graduated from basic training, technical school, from my law enforcement technical school, I was given the badge, and but I was not given a beret or the insignia that I would be wearing on my hat, which said USAFE, USAFE, United States Air Force in Europe. So when I got there, they had to issue me, when I got to RAF Bentwaters, they actually had to issue me a beret. I know it's just things always evolved in the military. However, I was issued combat boots in technical school, and I was also issued a bunch of stuff, an Ike jacket that they didn't like. They said, you can't wear that. I'm like, well, why are you people issuing me stuff that you're telling me I cannot wear? It says, we don't wear that, put it away. And oh, and I also learned to shoot the M16 and the 38 while I was there at Lackland. All right, not good when I hear welcome to Cripple Creek. Yeah, I was really feeling out of sorts. I was feeling the weight of the base. I was just trying to show the background of where I was in my dormitory. It was a beautiful farm field back there until a few weeks later, they decided to put in a base hospital, which would take them over 2 years to get completed. And I was just, yeah, I was feeling the weight of the base, and I was feeling really uncomfortable in my own skin. It was, I tried to shake it off as for something's wrong with this place. And it felt like something out of Alice in Wonderland. What's a nice girl like you doing in a place like this? Something was off about this place, this base. I really wanted to go back to Mildenhall or Lake and Heath. I could actually breathe when I was there. At Bentwaters, it was just, it was like I couldn't catch my breath. Not literally, more figuratively. And I felt incredible stress. In fact, even this photo here, I was starting to gain a little bit of weight. It was like I was just holding in fluid, and I was just feeling, I was not feeling myself. I was not feeling like the Lori I knew back in the States. I was just feeling like I wanted to run away from myself. Now, this is trying to get you an idea of how the base was situated. I spent many hours in this location where this young airman is, and that was pretty much the same outfit I would wear, although my shirt didn't have I couldn't really tuck in my shirt. That was a problem, but and he was just a young airman, E2. And the gentleman that was walking away, he was actually heading up to, he didn't even have to tell me, but he was walking from the dormitory to the post office, which was around the corner. But to get there, you have to go straight ahead. And one building past the Quonset hut on the left there is the law enforcement desk, which was an old dark green building. And across the street would be near the runway area. And interesting, again, was that there was actually a civilian house, like an old farmhouse there. And I actually saw children's toys out there a few times, and I'm thinking, who the heck wants to live right there? And it's on the technical side of the base, which is where all the aircraft is. It didn't make sense, but nothing really made sense there. That particular day, fortunately, looked like it was a sunny day. Yeah, just clouds in the sky, possibly going to rain. But I took this photo actually as I was getting ready to leave the base. I just wanted to have photos for my album, my memories. But this is post 10, technical side base. Now, this is where all the happening was going on. We're on base where you had your social time, where you can go to the grill, or to the right was a sound center where we had also the shopette, which was like a small 7-Eleven. I mean, you could see how happy everyone looks. I can't wait to go into these two buildings. And there was a little bookstore, and there were a few little buildings around there, and a laundromat. And on the right side would have been the Class 6 store, which was for many of the young people at Bentwaters was their #1 entertainment, because we did not have much in regard to entertainment, in regard to television, no video, no, we had a movie theater that showed a movie, different movie, maybe once or twice a week. That's little America right there. Now, 1978, Swing Shift, Eastgate, Lori Rehfeldt, that building next to me, behind me, is Eastgate. And what a gate it was. Now you can see straight ahead is where they put the blast wall. The blast wall wasn't there for quite a while. I think that they actually got it installed in about sometime in the 1980. But yeah, it really sucked when they put that in, because you couldn't see. At least I had a good view of runway. I could see parts of Rendlesham Forest. And but anyway, there I am looking, you know, actually I put my camera right on the what was that thing called? It was a, oh gosh. Anyway, I put my camera in that particular location, just, oh, the bunker, that's what I was thinking. I put my telephone, God almighty, let me get it right. I put my camera, because I didn't have a telephone with the video in it, on the bunker. And I took a picture of myself. Yes, I focused it, the whole thing, and took a photo, set the timer, stood there, and hoped it worked. And it did. To the, oh gosh, right behind the East Gate, usually there was like a little trash can there, and but often there was one night in particular that I could feel a gray. If you're sitting in East Gate, the only thing really you can see is like your head. So my head was facing the direction of the runway, which was really right across the street there, heading toward Rendlesham Forest. And I could feel a gray behind me telling me that not to turn around, because it knew I was scared. And I said, fine, I'm not going to turn around. Often the gate check did not have heat. It was just a disaster. Not a fun place. And midnight shifts, it was open in 1978 and I think part of 1979. And so I worked midnight shift till 8 in the morning, sitting out there in that gate. It was pretty frightening. And of course I didn't want to show it. Now here's the interesting thing. Look at me, the way I'm standing. Now I took another photo in 1979, and you can see that I put on a lot of weight. I was working swing shift. Like I said, I felt as if my body was literally changing, and I felt as if I had no control over it. So I was light, I had light sensitivity. For the most part, I had to wear sunglasses, even though it's cloudy, and as you can see, you're not really seeing blue skies here. And I had weight gain, and the scary part was the loss of stamina. Sometime around there, you can see actually across the street where it looks like they're starting to do construction of what turned out to be the blast wall. And the reason I think they put it in there was that the airplanes would have to kind of turn around. And when they would turn around, often the noise it would make would rattle the windows in the gate shack so badly that in some cases we were afraid, well, I was afraid that the suction was sucked out of the gate shack and the windows would just break open. So I think that was part of the reason. I don't know. I wasn't part of that decision. Clear sentience. Now, this is something that I learned from someone who told me it's a gift that I have. It's the ability to clearly feel energy or clear feeling. Feeling such things as emotions, thoughts, pain, and yes, even ghosts are made of energy. The The stronger the energy of someone's fears or thoughts, the easier someone with clear sentience can feel it. I felt a lot. And clear sentience, individual perceives as in a sixth sense by feeling or having knowledge about an object. And this is where it's important to know that when you're in the military, you're around a lot of logical people. You're not really around highly intuitive people. It's just the way it is. And so if you have a gut feeling or you know something's there, you can't see it, you can feel it. And it's be really frightening. And in some cases, it was really hard to describe to people because they were always saying that, you know, the whole thing, you need concrete proof. You can't use it based on your feeling, even though really the sense of touch or the sense of what goes on, whether it's through your third eye or in your gut intuition, it didn't amount to much in regard to what was happening around you. And the hard part of it was we were taught to suck it up. So if we felt something, and there were several things that I did feel. One was in the non-munition storage area. Someone had asked me to put a picture of it on the on my it's either my Facebook or Twitter. And what it was a large 7-8 foot praying mantis walking on 2 feet. I think it had clothes on, I don't know, but it was pacing back and forth. It had issues. It was just didn't want me to bother him. So he told me to pretty much go back to your gate check. And it was really, so for me, I didn't like the idea of being alone, locked in an area with a praying mantis on the far side of it, closer to the Rendlesham Forest, knowing that it was going back and forth. I saw it in my mind. It was like a clear picture. I mean, it was just really, really, like I said, creepy. But can I, yeah, it's like, it says here, clear sentient possesses the internal power to see and feel the energy from objects that are invisible and out of sight. And I did not like that. Now, this next one I'm going to share with you is disturbing. So, but it was probably one of the best photos. Actually, it was I took a couple of pictures and kind of put them together and drew on them and did all sorts of stuff. Now, this is either the wild man of Orford Castle or the ghost of a crazed man from Rendlesham Hall. On RAF Bentwaters side, I would have to look, I had to drive a pickup truck over to the lock gate to check the lock on the lock gate. The locks was liquid oxygen. So, but it was important, and the flight chief set it up that you had to get out of your vehicle. You just couldn't put on the high beams and say, oh yeah, it looks like it's locked, because they would usually put a note on it. And if you didn't get the note and they would find out, they would say, so what did you think? And you'd be like, what are you talking about? And you're like, oh, you didn't check your gate. You didn't get out and check to see if we put a little surprise back there. So when I pulled up, and I'll show you the road and I'll show you a map so you get a visual of what happened. But I would feel this being pressed up against my window, and I wouldn't look because I just wanted to get the hell out of there. This is over near the Ivy Lodge gate. Now, if you look here, the Ivy Lodge gate is right. It's not that far from the Bentwaters Cold War Museum, and and I have a star next to where Rendlesham Hall is, and also put a star where the airmen dormitories where we lived when we were on the base. It's very different now because they put in a whole new community down there. Now, at the Ivy Lodge gate is where I would see the, in my mind, I would see that crazed man. Now, there were two things that could have been happening, and I think one of them makes more sense, is that in the I'd say in the 1900s, like 1910 or something like that, the Rendlesham Hall was actually taken over by the military because they were in the Great War, also known as World War One. And as military people do, they didn't really keep up the beauty of Rendlesham Hall. And then eventually it was sold and became a sanitarium where it was a place for inebriates or people with drug addictions, alcoholism, and all that good stuff. And the dormitory was maybe less than a quarter of a mile from Rendlesham Hall. And I kind of wonder if whatever happened during that time had an influence over the excessive behavior that we witnessed while working in law enforcement. At least in my, my head, the place was, especially in the dormitories closest to Rendlesham Hall, I saw some really bizarre stuff. So here, let's look at another photo here. This is the next one. Now, there's the fence line. I put the photo of the crazed guy because that's about the location where I would feel him. And this is on base. On base is where you see Ivy Lodge Gate Shack, even though there's not the gate shack there, that's where it was. He was on the other side of the fence line that I pointed to. And where those trees are surrounding that little pond. Now, when I was there, that was overgrown. The whole thing was overgrown. You didn't see anything. It didn't look so, it looks kind of nice. It did not look nice. And it was just overgrown, like walking into a wooded area that was completely overgrown. And you could not see the pond, but I knew back then that there was a pond there. And I, learning about it through Google really, for me, was kind of stunning in a shocking kind of way to know that there was a pond there. And the crazed person, man, was actually in the pond or getting out of the pond or around the pond, trying to scare whoever he could scare. And, I kind of wonder, well, maybe he was at Rendlesham Hall and, left there and got really, really drunk and fell into the pond and drowned. I don't know. I'm only speculating. But that was creepy. So I pulled up my vehicle, and the vehicle, of course, the driver's side, we were driving American cars. So the steering wheel was on the left side. So when I was facing the lock gate, I was pretty much facing my window on the driver's side was facing the fence line. So I feel this tormented, evil, crazed kind of being just scaring the hell out of me. And as soon as I checked the gate, I had to get out and check the gate, run back to my car, and I put the pedal to the metal in reverse and got the hell out of there. Rendlesham Hall in its glory days. Yeah, it was a beautiful building, and it was destroyed many, I could guess, but I think it was in the 40s or 50s. Again, that's where the location of, you could see where Ivy Lodge is versus Airman dorms again. And I drew this photo, but it's really kind of discombobulated. So one thing I do want to point out is there's a roundabout, and there were two ways that people would go to the technical side of the gates, which is on the bottom part, get you on the area of the base where all the aircraft war. And but on the other side, you go by these Kwanzaa huts that held the base clinics and I think the dental clinic, and and then when you run around the corner, you would be near we had a base theater, a gym, the chow hall. They just put in a bowling alley, and those rectangles are the dormitories. Now, all the security police lived in 2 or 3 dormitories. I have no idea. But because I was female, I did not live with my fellow security police people. I actually lived on the 3rd floor that housed all the single women, young single women at RAF Bentwaters. So yeah, it was kind of interesting that at that time I was separated, but that's the way it works. Okay, Mystery at East Gate. I usually at this point would show you a video that I hope you get a chance to go on to. It's only about 2 minutes long, and it was done by a gentleman in Portugal, and I think it was just a fabulous video. He's amazing, and of course his name is escaping me, but hey, I am 63 years old, so what can I say? So what happened in February 1980, I was on Delta flight. I was the lead patrol, and it was at 0300 hours, meaning 3 in the morning. Again, I was lead patrol with Airman First Class Keith Duffield, and we went out to East Gate again to check the lock on the gate. At this point, the East Gate was closed during the midnight shift because hardly anyone ever came in and out of the gate, and they figured that they could always have the patrol go out there and open it if somebody needed to come onto the base from the back gate. So we were there, and then I pulled up my car next to the East Gate shack that I just showed you those photos of. There was this pad right beside it, and I was facing off base, so I might have even been a little bit on the road. And it's when we saw this light coming in from the North Sea, and it came in really low. It was a bright light. I would have thought it was a C-130. And I started thinking about that I would have to do customs work. And so I was kind of thinking, well, this will be good. This will give us an hour of something to do, so we're not bored. I'd rather do something than be bored. And then it was probably about 30 or 40 something feet off the ground, and it stopped, and it stopped at the very edge of the runway. There's like a little pond out there too, another little creepy pond. But it was right there at the beginning of the runway when it stopped, and then it did its geometric movements. It went up, down, left, right, and it kind of pulsated before it broke into 3 pieces, and it flew low, like a low arc over the runway, and then it shot up into the night sky. And because it flew over the base, it flew over RAF Woodbridge runway, I felt obligated to call it in. Although I didn't want to, I actually handed the radio to Keith Duffield, told him to call it in. And he handed the radio back to me saying, well, you're the lead patrol, you call it in. And what we didn't realize too is I do believe that we did lose about 2-3 hours, about 2 hours of time, because the next thing I know, after the desk sergeant told me to go over to the air tower, it was becoming daybreak. And in February, it stays dark till almost 7 in the morning. And I was just really annoyed because the young airman in the air tower was sleeping, so he did not see anything. But some of the things that really left with me were some symbols, and one in particular is one that I drew. Now, I actually drew this. I'll show you a better photo, but I like the way I did that one there. Now, you can actually also flip it around to have the little yellow dot on the upper left-hand side, just to show you. Now, this here, now this is pretty interesting, is when you look at it. Now, if you flip mine over to the very top, just flip it, you can rotate it. It's the same as the one of Larry, and the only big difference would be, and actually, no, I take that back, because if you look, my yellow ball, the little one, is not attached. It is not attached to the triangle. So this is, I drew this actually when I was working at the Department of Education, just waiting for my next phone call to come in, because that's what I did. I answered regulatory questions for financial aid officers. And so anyway, it gave me something to do. Then several years later, I saw a painting, amazing painting that Larry Warren had created, and you could see his too. His is in the upright position, same as Jim Peniston's glyph. Now, at that time, this is 1997, sometime in there. So at that time, we barely had internet, and I did not know of the photos that Jim Peniston had created. And years later, I didn't know that Larry Warren would include something like that in his painting. So this symbol, just to let you know, is important. And why is it important? That's where I need your help. Why is it important? But it's clearly in there. Now, I did get some information from a gentleman who talks about symbols, Wayne Herschel, and he shows triangle touches circles, 3 stars as a trinity, but one most important, I guess that's large one he's saying. And then he looked at all different kinds of historical information. One was from the Secret, looking at Orion and the sun and the place of human origin and other beings, and and then you're looking at God, Son, Father, Spirit on the bottom left-hand side. And I mean, there are a lot of these types of symbols from whether it's in science, astronomy, things like looking at Chariot of the Gods, how these things came to be when they've been here for thousands and thousands of years. So this information is not new. The question is how we interpret this information to create something that makes sense. And it needs to be explored more, as opposed to just accepting the Holy Trinity. But the Holy Trinity then tells me that it's larger and it emulates something far more important, and the symbol can actually be a key to really understanding who we are, where we belong in this universe. Capel Green. Now, I had to say it because there's some people, I'm an instigator, I admit it. Instigation is my middle name. Capel Green, and the filmmaker Dion Johnson is awesome, as is Gary Hazeltine, who will be in our future God, Aliens, and Cup of Coffee podcast with Larry and my sister Donna Rehfeldt Schreiber. And Capel Green has been trying to let the truth out. For some reason, and I do believe this is part of the whole issue of Rendlesham Forest and incident and Eastgate incident, or anything related to ufology, is that if you're a whistleblower and you bring out the information, as Larry Warren did, he puts himself up to being crucified or beaten up verbally. And first thing I want people to know out there, I will support Larry, because he was one of the few people out there, and people who are out there watching this. If you were not in the military, if you did not raise your right hand and to swear to protect the Constitution of the United States, to put your life on the line, then you have no right to tear down a military personnel, especially one who'd seen something extraordinary. And Larry he'd admit he wasn't the only one out there. There were a lot of people out there. And it just happened that he was there when, and he was relatively new to Bentwaters. And and it was at the point where he really needed to know what was going on. So Capel Green, when it does come out, I still believe it will be amazing. And I volunteered to put my part into it, because I think my part needs to be heard as much. And the one thing, and a lot of folks will tell me that too, is, well, how come we don't hear much about you? And I keep telling people that it's because we're only listening to about 5-6 people. I'm really surprised that that guy, Lou, I'm not even gonna say his last name because everyone knows who I'm talking about. He was I think he retired as a high-ranking non-commissioned officer, and then he served at the Pentagon. And he left the Pentagon after a certain amount of time. Why, I don't know. Part of that doesn't make sense to me, because once you get up to GS 15, you're doing really well. And I don't know. If it were me, I probably would have stuck around longer, even if there was a lot of bullshit going on. At the time, when he was in the 90s and early 2000s, I think, I was actually active Army Reserves. And so at the time, I had soldiers that were actually were inside the Pentagon during 9/11, which was shocking, because the weekend before we were standing under a pergola at the 55th MMC near Fort Belvoir. It was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful day during 9/11 in DC. So I was given a lot of shit for participating in this thing, but all these people that were giving me shit did not ever draw any attention. I'm talking about researchers. I'm talking about people that should have been doing what I call due diligence, and they did not. I shared my stories with Georgina Bruni back in 1997. I know I put her in touch with other airmen who was actually in touch with Steve Leclume, who got to visit Georgina and meet up with Nick Pope. And at that time, Nick Pope was a nice guy. And but he misrepresented himself to me, never, ever even thinking about clearing it up, because I'm pretty straightforward when I'll say, so you were there at MOD during 1980, and he would just say, well, I have information about it and all this stuff. But instead of saying that he was wrong, the man just has a huge ego, and everyone believes him. And he's telling everybody that they're liars and they're this and they're that. yet he goes on and he shares with people this knowledge that he has no knowledge for. So anyway, that whole thing really perplexes me, because he'll say there's nothing to Roswell, and then what happens? The people at Roswell conference will invite him and pay him a lot of money to speak. He is a good speaker, but he does such a disservice for UFOlogy. So I just think that Capel Green came out just to pretty much shut these people up who are just being bossy pants. And I look forward to it coming out. And no matter what, if anything, people will owe Larry Warren an apology for treating him so badly. And I'm telling you, what he went through was hell. And as a former major, I'm still a major, really. My thought is that you never leave an airman behind. And I got that from Craig Perry, who was railroaded out of the Air Force because he was trying to do his job down at Lackland. He was a lieutenant colonel. Anyway, lots going on. Now, one thing that I find is that when Larry and when I separately experienced our UFO sighting, RFI for him, Eastgate incident for me, and many other people, it really planted something in our minds. And one of the things that it planted was the triangles, the glyphs, or for me, the glyph. And, in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Roy Neary had just recently built the mountain in front, the one that's in, where the heck is it? Anyway, he built the mountain, and he in his living room, and he goes to the place, I think it was in Wyoming, and Devil's Tower, and he says exploding in frustration. And you can imagine we were pretty much exploding in frustration, but in some cases, if you exploded too much to want answers, no one was they were gonna say, shut the hell up. And he talks to them, they ask him some questions, they realize that the scientists realize that he's there and why he's there. They want to know what his motivation for going to Devil's Mountain was, because no one told them the truth of what was really going on there. And of course, they had the helicopter waiting for him to go on get on the helicopter to be taken away. And again, that meant not knowing. And all these people were prompted through desire, through compulsion, in a good way, to want to know the truth. So Neary wrote this, or this was a line from Close Encounters. Is that it? Is that all you're going to ask me? Well, I got a couple of thousand goddamn questions. Are you the head man around here? Because I want to lodge a complaint. You think no right? You have no right to make people crazy. You think I personally investigate every news story on Walter Cronkite? If that is just a cloud of gas, why is it I know this mountain, every detail, and I have never been here? That is so powerful to me. And they still wouldn't say, but you know how the story goes. And if you don't know how the story goes, you got to watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind, because it's an everyday person who experiences it. And it's information that by just looking at the UFO outside the driver's side window is when all this information came to him. And he spent, when he meant being crazy, it was like, a lot of this information was on the tip of his tongue, on the tip of his fingers, looking at a mound of mashed potatoes, and all of a sudden creating this, what looked like the Devil's Tower. So that's a problem. And I feel it. Lori feels it. There are many of us that feel it. There are many who don't. You could talk to other people there who were there at the same time. Could it be that me being clairsentient, that I was more open to it? I mean, open to it because of it being a gift, not open to it because I wanted to be open to it. That's, I guess, the biggest difference. Netscape. Isn't that a beautiful picture? It is 1997, and I'm in DC sitting at my desk, and I type into Netscape, RAF Bentwaters. And what comes out? Left at Eastgate. This was the first time I learned, 1997, that 2 weeks after I departed RAF Bentwaters, that the UFO came back. It opened up the floodgates for me. I wanted answers. I wanted a lot of answers. And I wanted camaraderie. I wanted to commiserate. I wanted to talk to others to say, hey, look, you know, what the hell happened out there? What are your thoughts? And I think that each of us has a piece of the puzzle. And because there's so much infighting going on, which I think is there by design, by the powers to be, that we don't get to that point where we're putting the pieces of the puzzle together. So it's frustrating, yet if we don't persist, well, obviously we won't get anywhere. But this was magic. I am so thankful that Larry Warren decided to write his book, especially this title, Left at Eastgate, because I feel like this 18, 19-year-old kid, Lori Rehfeldt, Airman Lori Rehfeldt, was left at Eastgate and probably still there. Rendlesham to Redemption. Steve LaPlume wrote his book. It's a good read. You got to read it. He is like Larry in many ways. They're both brilliant. And they, if given the chance, I really wish that they had stuck around the Air Force, because they were definitely assets in my humble opinion, because they're what I call thinking airmen. So the UFO came back. I had so many questions and needed to contact Larry. This was the thing where it's like I'm heading over to Devil's Tower and I'm saying, look, I don't care. I felt as if I found a combat buddy and knew what I was going through. And that to me was so important, that I could talk to somebody about my experience and what's been happening with me and what I'm going through and what it all means. And yeah, because when I was there, it was the attitudes, the sarcasm, the asshole treatment we were subjected to. And in my case, I truly felt I was silenced. I just shut up. I clammed up. I left Bentwaters as if I escaped. Thinking about the place stresses me out, but I still have a compelling feeling to walk along Eastgate area. Now, after I learned about the book, this is where synchronicity was coming at me from all directions. One was just doing housework. I was home and I was watching Rosie O'Donnell, and I stopped dead in my tracks when Dan Aykroyd pulls out a copy of Left at Eastgate. No joke. It's like, what were the odds of that? Yeah, January 28th, 1998. Celestine Prophecy, a friend of mine, Katie Matthews, who worked at the 67th ARRS, Air Rescue and Recovery Squadron. She was a helicopter electrician at the time. And we were talking in 97 and she told me, but you gotta read the Celestine Prophecy. And I'm like, Celestine what? And so that day I decided I'm walking up toward Union Station and there's this woman that's about 2 blocks ahead of me. And I played this game of, I'm gonna pass her before she gets into Union Station without running. So I'm walking really, really fast, trying to get there. Next thing I know, we're in the building. So I didn't win that particular race. However, I was kind of following her into the bookstore. We go into the bookstore. Now I'm like, she can go off and do her thing. I'm not there for her. And I ended up looking for the book, Celestine Prophecy. And the next thing you know, I'm right beside her. And she pulls out the book. And this is the only book she pulled out, Celestine Prophecy. She pulled it out, looked at it, and then she put it back. And I'm watching this thinking, this is, it's like, is this really happening? I mean, it's small things, yet it's huge. What does this mean? So after she leaves, I grab the book and buy it. And then another time I get this National Geographic magazine, and that's actually the cover of it. It's a, you see it right there. And in it, they talk about, let me see the date of it there. October 1995. Okay. So I get this complimentary copy of National Geographic magazine. And it turns out in it, now I've been having, this is before I learned about Eastgate, the whole thing, Larry Warren and whatnot. The thing is that I was having these recurring dreams. And in these recurring dreams was, here, let me show you. I start out at Bentwaters and heading in a direction, probably here toward the roundabout. I'm at RF Bentwaters, wondering why I'm here or why I'm there, because I'm no longer in the military or I am an officer or whatnot. I shouldn't be on patrol. And then my dream takes me from, there I am on this wet road, driving over to the desk sergeant, and getting out and trying to say I don't belong on the gate, that whole thing. And then I'm back in the car and I'm on a dirt road and I'm just driving down, and I'm in, all the mountains around it are kind of like dirt mountains, and and next thing I know, I get to this pond and it's aqua blue. It looks like it's in a crater. And this was in the magazine. And what it's called is Poza Azul at Cuatro Ciénegas. It's about 150 miles due east from the Mapimi Desert location of the Zone of Silence. I'm thinking, what the hell? What's this Zone of Silence? And then I learned that there's a dirt road again, Zona del Silencio, an area that doesn't pick up radio signals and frequencies. And this is powerful. It's got high UFO activity. Now over at Bentwaters and Woodbridge and Bobsey Bay, I believe that they were practicing radar jamming, doing experiments, Cobra Mist. There were different projects going on there. And now here, my dream is taking me to this place that I've never been to, don't know about ever. It only came up in my dream. And it's also known to have 2 tall blonde men and 1 tall blonde woman, and they happen to be from Pleiades. And what they do usually is they help people who get lost in the desert, or they'll meet up with somebody and ask for, I guess, fill up their canteen with water. And this I found in Historic Mysteries. They call them a weird trio. One ranch in particular claims more than its fair share of encounters with this trio. According to the staff there, all the members of the group dressed in clothing that was not all suitable for a desert environment. They spoke fluent Spanish like natives and were not only extremely attractive, but also polite to an extreme. Every visit had the same motive. The three would request to fill their canteens with water from the well on the property. Never once asked for food or anything else. According to the ranch staff, when one ranch hand dared to ask where they originated, the only reply they gave was from above. Now I'm thinking, how is this connected to Bentwaters? Well, there is a connection. Oh, here they are, the Palladians. Here's the connections. RAF Woodbridge, Sutton Hoo. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see these mounds, and these mounds are actually shaped like the star cluster Pleiades. Then at RAF, near RAF Bentwaters Woodbridge in 1972, they were testing for frequency, trying to make aircraft invisible so that the Russians couldn't see them. And and this was not far from RAF Bentwaters. And I got a lot of the information about the Pallades at Sutton Hoo from Wayne Herschel. He's got, the man is just chock full of really important information that if anybody, I would highly recommend you have him at conferences because he can help put the pieces together. And here we look again at the glyphs from John Penniston and the triangles, the circles. And he correlates it with Egyptian symbols. And like I said, Christianity, some of the signals are Leo of the bull. So again, now we're looking at the different constellations that are out there. Celestial ship, and the three suns with the pyramid. So that looks like something off of an old film. Let me see which one that was. And here again, we're looking at the differences with the Holy Trinity and the up, down, left, right. But my point is that, and of course, this is just a small microscopic little piece of what's happened. And I know I'm not getting any younger. I'd like to say I am, but I'm not. And but I do think it's important that the conversation continues, and it continues with people who are looking for answers. And there are folks out there that are brilliant. And for instance, oh gosh, what was his first name? Mr. Osborne, Gary Osborne, another brilliant man who's been helping Jim Penniston with his story. And so there's just so much information out there. And I think that's one of my motives for helping to create God, Aliens, and a Cup of Coffee, is to bring people to this place where they can help us just to go over these things and have those gee whiz moments so we can continue exploring and maybe find some answers before we die. Because once we die, we will know the answers, obviously. And I mean, I wonder, is Pleiades where heaven is? You know, it's one of those places that you can't get there by even a rocket. But if we can, I mean, maybe the thing is that our spirits will, when we die, our spirits are then released from our bodies, and then where it goes, and listening to people that have gone through near-death experiences, maybe Pleiades is one of the many heavens out there. But I'm speculating, I'm guessing, but we do have a lot of markers out there and a lot of statues and a lot of correlation. One other correlation I didn't bring up yet is the relationship through the geometry of the location of the zone of silence and the pyramids, and also all the activity happening in England near RAF Bentwaters, the Lee Lines, and also the Bermuda Triangle. And one of the other elements I find that's also part of this is Atlantis, and what Atlantis left us, and has maybe some answers to how humans even came to be being here. And well, that's it for me. I do plan on having another podcast probably later. And again, joy and all that good stuff to all you out there. And I look forward to, oops, sorry about that. Continuing this discussion. Bye-bye.